Hey girl, my name is Anel. Welcome to the Brave in Her podcast, where we inspire, empower, and motivate by sharing our stories of bravery. I strongly believe that by sharing our stories, we open ourselves to healing, but also serve to give hope and inspiration to those who are dealing with a tough situation. We will talk about all topics under the sun. Now let's hear your stories of bravery. Hey girl, thank you for being here today. In today's podcast, we have Lyndsay Hoag. She's here to talk to us about her infertility issues. Hi, Lyndsay, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. So do you want to start by giving us a little bit background about yourself, where you live and you're married, anything you want to share about you with us?
Yeah, I'm really excited to share this with y'all. I am 30 and I'm going back to school actually for my RN.
Great. Do you want to tell us how did you find out that you had infertility issues? I mean, it's something that I feel like a lot of women are going through, but not a lot are, speaking about. Do you want to tell us, how did you find out that you were going through this?
Yeah, so we got married in September of 2016, and that's when we started trying. And it was at my yearly appointment in December of 2017 that we still had never gotten pregnant. And I had started having some just issues with my cycle, having a lot of pain during ovulation and the days leading up to my cycle. And I went to my doctor and told her what was going on. And honestly, she told me, "You just have bad periods. I don't know why you're not getting pregnant, and just keep trying." And so I was really discouraged at the beginning, and I knew that I had infertility issues, but I just didn't know where to go from that point. And so I didn't do anything for that whole time. For that next year, I didn't do any more research. I didn't do anything until I want to say it was like December of 2017. I decided I think I'm going to go get a second opinion. I had trusted that doctor for 6 or 7 years, and I just had this feeling like I need to go talk to somebody else. And so I did. And as soon as I told her my symptoms and that we had been trying for at that point, like a year and a half almost, she knew exactly what was wrong with me. She diagnosed me with infertility. And from there, we kind of made some other choices and did some other steps.
So what was that diagnosis?
So she diagnosed me with endometriosis,
Okay.
which is basically, if anyone's not familiar with it, it's basically just extra lining that's growing of your endometrium, and it can grow out into your organs in your stomach. So it's not necessarily just in your uterus. It can grow outside of that. And that's why I was having so much pain. And that's what she diagnosed me with. And then also the infertility.
Right. I know that a lot of women do not know about endometriosis, but they just think that they have heavy periods or just very painful periods, because I went through it myself, where I suffered for probably 10 years with just really, really bad cramping, and nothing was working, and my doctor was just like, "Oh, you're just one of those that have really bad periods." And then turns out I also have endometriosis. And then once you find out, everything makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's why I noticed a lot of women that I talk to that have endometriosis, their gynecologist has said, "Oh, you have bad periods. The only source for it the only cure is to get pregnant or be on birth control," which doesn't really work if you're trying to conceive.
Right. Yeah, which is so weird because, they tell you the cure is to get pregnant, but then endometriosis causes infertility. So it's really hard to get pregnant anyway.
Exactly.
So do you want to tell us a little bit more about, the symptoms you had that led your doctor to diagnose you with endometriosis?
Yeah. So, like I said, I think it was mid to late 2017. I started noticing I always had, pretty mild cramping before my cycle started, but I started noticing that around the time that I ovulate, I was getting horrible cramping pain, like in the fetal position, couldn't go to work, could get out of bed. And then it was also starting to happen 2 to 3 days before my period would start. And I was thinking, like, this doesn't seem normal. I didn't honestly really have any other symptoms. I had some digestive issues, but that was the main symptom. And then infertility, which is what really sparked my new doctor's diagnosis of endometriosis, was that we also had been trying for a year and a half and had no positive pregnancy tests ever. So those two combinations is what led her to that diagnosis.
Right. Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that it takes like up to 10 years for women to be diagnosed with the correct diagnosis, because for so long you're being told that it's just your period, and then turns out it's something else.
Yeah, I've also, after going to a fertility specialist last week, she said that endometriosis doesn't show up in women until anywhere between 26 and 28 years old. So they can't really diagnose it until that point, because the painful part of it doesn't get really bad until around that age for whatever reason, which I didn't know that.
Until there's enough buildup to make it painful. And how have you been able to cope with your infertility?
Well, that first year and a half was hard because we didn't understand why we weren't getting pregnant. I thought, after a few months of trying, it would happen. And I never thought past that. And so when it didn't happen, it was really frustrating. But when I got that diagnosis and I had a doctor that wanted to help us and knew about my symptoms and knew what was wrong with me, it made me feel a lot better knowing here's the reason why it's not happening. And here's what we can do to help you try and get pregnant. Of course, some life events happened. So I believe that was like March or April of 2018. I got that diagnosis. I had surgery a month later. And then we unfortunately weren't prepared for how much IUI cost with that doctor. It was like $1,200.
Wow.
And we didn't have enough money saved up to do IUI cycles. And then a really big fire happened. I used to live in Northern California, and a really big fire happened that actually closed down that doctor's office for a few months. So we couldn't do anything at that point either. And then we found out we were moving to Texas. And so I had to start the whole process over again of finding a doctor I trusted, one that understood endometriosis and our symptoms. And I mean, that's been like a year-long process of trying to find a new doctor to help us work through all of that.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to just go through. Just even finding that one doctor, and then once you find that one doctor that understands and knows what you're going through, and then having to, not being able to go to him and then having to start all over again, that must have been really stressful.
Yes, it was. But what I found is that like having a good support system around us made it easier. Once I started opening up to family and friends about what we were going through, I still felt alone, but not as alone. So it made the process easier. And then just open communication with my husband about how I was feeling made that whole process a lot easier.
Yeah. And then, so you mentioned surgery. What was that surgery for?
So I have had two. I had one in 2018, and it was a laparoscopic surgery to remove the endometriosis. It's the only way they can get rid of it if you're not going to do birth control or if you get pregnant. Right. And then I also just had that surgery in July again because my endometriosis had grown back and had gotten even worse.
Wow. Right. I think I was told that every 2 years you're supposed to have a surgery to remove the tissue that's causing the pain.
Yeah, that's it. I've talked to a lot of women that they had to have the surgery every time before they got pregnant. or they had the surgery once and got pregnant and then never had any issues with it again. So it's just every woman's body is so different that you never know, but that's the general rule of thumb, I guess.
Yeah. And then is there anything else you want to share? What is your current plan right now for infertility? What are you going through right now?
So right now, last week we went to a reproductive endocrinologist, which is a mouthful, but it's a person that specifically specializes in infertility, and some insurance companies recognize them and will cover some things. But I went to them last week. They said that the only way we can get pregnant is IVF, just because of how long we've been trying, which is 4 years now, and we've never had a positive pregnancy test. So that is kind of where we're at, trying to figure out the cost of it and trying to figure out where to go from here. So as of right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to afford it and trying to figure out what to do with this time in life, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to tell that women that are dealing with infertility issues right now?
Yeah, I would just say, I've told someone else this too, whether you're 2 or 3 months into this, or you're 4 years or 10 years like I am, know that you're not alone, and know that wherever you're at in the process of infertility, that your story is important, how you feel is important, and never be afraid to open up about that or talk to someone that you trust about it, because I didn't in the beginning and I felt so alone. And now I can confidently talk about it. I don't feel alone. I can help other women work through it. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, I feel like the more you talk about it, the more you share, you never know who you're inspiring. And maybe you find someone who's going through the same thing, and, just, you guys can just lean on each other, because just going through it, it's lonely, and it's painful.
Yeah, and I never realized how many of my family friends and close friends have gone through the same thing until I started talking about it. And I know so many women now that have struggled as well. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is regarding your marriage or your partner, whoever you're trying to get pregnant with, make sure that you have open communication with them. That's another thing that I've learned. We've struggled through it over the last 4 years, in times where we don't communicate and other times where we're talking a lot. I would also reach out to a married couple that you trust to maybe help you walk through that and learn how to communicate with each other if it's something you struggle in. And then don't be afraid to seek therapy. It's really normal to feel lonely, to be frustrated and have anxiety, and that's not something to be ashamed of. So I would seek that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Always seeking out help. And, it doesn't make you weak or makes you, a failure or anything like that. It actually makes you stronger, because, you share your story, and whoever you're reaching out to, sharing their story, and everyone's going through something at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I just wanted to mention too about the endometriosis. If you're dealing with any of the symptoms that you just mentioned, to seek help. Don't just go based on whatever your gynecologist is saying. If your gynecologist is not diagnosing you with properly with something, and it's just ignoring your symptoms, don't feel like you're crazy or anything like that, because oftentimes doctors will, make you feel like you are, but no one knows your body more than you. So if you're not satisfied with the diagnosis that your doctor's giving you, seek second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, until you get an answer that you're satisfied with. And then, move on. If it's endometriosis, look for treatments or anything that would help you. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to just mention out there. Don't just come with one diagnosis.
That's a good point, because I'm looking for fertility specialists in a new city. You can go to their websites and it'll tell you what diagnoses that they specialize in. Some of them don't do endometriosis, but they specialize in PCOS. And then the other thing with the second opinion, I learned just because I work in the medical field also, is some people suggested that maybe my first doctor didn't know enough about endometriosis and she wasn't comfortable treating it. And that's why she kind of pushed me off to the side and kind of ignored my symptoms, because she wasn't comfortable. So I completely agree with you. If you feel like there's something going on with your body, go get another opinion. It doesn't hurt to go to another doctor and seek other medical attention at all.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what, we should all do until we, we're happy with the diagnosis and, find a plan that works for you.
Yes, you have to be your own advocate because nobody else will do it for you.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, with anything that you're dealing with your health, with anything in you, just be your own advocate, because again, no one knows your body, your mind, and you're just you. Nobody knows you more than yourself. You have to live with yourself 24/7, right? So your doctor doesn't know more than you. They might have a medical degree, but they know what they know, but you know what you know in your body.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey. It's inspiring, and I wish you good luck with. I think we talked before, but I think you said you're starting treatment in 2021, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to wait until I'm a little bit further into schooling before we do that, and then just finances. Obviously, it's not cheap to do IVF, so.
So I wish you good luck, and I hope that you have a baby in probably 2021, 2022.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me share my story.
Thank you for being brave to sharing your story. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode inspired you. If you like this podcast, please share on social media and tag me on Instagram @TheBraveInHer. I would love to hear your stories of bravery.